What up, everybody? It's your boy Ash here, guys, and I'm coming to you guys today with a My Hero Academia discussion video. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about chapters 287 and 288. And man, oh man, did we get a lot of dialogue and in-depth conversation in these two chapters here. Before we jump into it, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, all the good stuff, guys. Here, it always means a lot to us. But let's start with chapter 287 here. I'm going to go through both chapters pretty quick here. I just want to discuss the major points and talk about them a little bit. So chapter 287 is called Mistake. And in this chapter, we pick up where we left off in that inner world of All for One and One for All. And Nana Shimura shows up and is talking to All for One. And All for One is like, oh, it's the pathetic excuse for a hero, Nana Shimura, and starts ripping into her as he's like floating out of Shigaraki's body, which still to this, it like freaks me out a little bit. So they start to have a discussion, and this inner world is so cool, and it was so cool that Horikoshi gave us this inner world, and we get more in depth of what this is. And All for One starts to talk to Nana about how when he steals people's quirks, that he can hear or feel those people's dreams, and they can kind of interact with them. They give him nightmares, they keep him restless, he can't really sleep at night, and he kind of drive him crazy. And he talks about this like an organ transplant. When you get an organ transplant, your senses, your tastes, they can be changed because you have different cells going into your body. So he says that someone who gets an organ transplant may have different tastes, they may have different taste of sense or sense of smell or taste or any of that stuff. And he kind of explains this as quirks as well. So people who he takes quirks from, he gets their personalities. Each quirk has a personality. It takes the characteristics of its user, and he gets that full brunt. He can kind of communicate with those characteristics with those people who he took the quirks from. And he says as soon as he gets rid of a quirk, those personalities, those characteristics leave his body. So he no longer has to deal with those people like mentally attacking him. So it was a real cool in-depth conversation about how the quirks work. Each quirk has a personality of its users. So let's say with Deku and all the previous users, that's why he can communicate with them, because each personality was put into the quirk. They kind of layered on top of each other. That's how their quirks work, All for One and One for All. The abilities to pile on quirks, but obviously, All for One can kind of take quirks and push them away, unlike One for All. So, very cool in-depth conversation about how these quirks work, how the personalities work, and why Deku's able to see the past users and use those abilities. It's because of how the quirk works. The personalities, the traits are all built into that quirk. Really cool, and it kind of gives us more in-depth knowledge of how quirks work in general, which is always awesome to see. I know with other series, we're always questioning how certain things work, like with One Piece, for example, how devil fruits work. Are there previous users like involved at all? We just don't know too much about him yet. I'm sure it'll be coming, but that's kind of always questioned. So I'm glad Horikoshi kind of explained that to start chapter 287 off here. But he goes on to talk to Shigaraki and be like, this is your grandmother. So an introduction to grandma, and Shigaraki kind of remembers a photo that he saw of his grandma. And despite the reunion, Shigaraki still has no emotion towards his family. He hates his family. He hates everything that they've done. He said, despite how we've met, Grandma, I still hate you with everything in my being, or everything in my heart. So he has no qualms about killing Nana. So, and you can just see the pain in Nana's face. She even says like, oh, you're my son's son, you're my grandson. So that was a really sad scene. I felt bad for Nana because she really tried her best. Yeah, it may not have been the best way to do it, but she thought she was doing what was best. And you saw the emotion from her when she had to walk away from her family because she thought they were in danger. She cried in Gran Torino's arms. So we know how she felt leaving, but obviously her family didn't get to know because she didn't want them to be in danger's way. So it's always tough being the hero. Yeah, not every decision is the right decision, but she thought she was doing what's best. I was fine with it. I understand why she did what she did, but obviously there's a lot of animosity towards her, and Shigaraki should not be able to mess with All for One or One for All's universe. So this is One for All's like existence, where he can see the past users, and usually Shigaraki wouldn't be able to affect anything in this realm, but for some reason his dismantling quirk, his disintegration quirk, works, and he shoots it towards Nana, and even All For One is like, man, it shouldn't be able to work in here, but look at that, it's working. Your pure rage is kind of going out of control right now, and you even see it going up his body. Nana puts out her arms and stops the attack, but it looks like it's still coming. But right behind her pops up the original user, All For One's brother. He puts a hand up as well, stopping the attack completely. And Shigaraki notices, like, this is the power that Master could never fully master or gain control of. And he's like, even my attacks were stopped. So Shigaraki's seeing why that All For One had so much trouble with this power, and why the past users have given him so much trouble in the past 100 years or however long he's been alive. So Shigaraki's starting to understand what this power means, why his masters had so much trouble with it. So he's getting to see the full brunt of this here. So as soon as this happens, you see an explosion happen, and all of a sudden we come out of the realm. But before that happened, we had a small conversation with All For One and his brother, and All For One goes in on Deku. He's like, you chose wrong. You put your faith in a pathetic weakling who chose rage. He sees blood. He wants to get after us, guys. He tried to kill us. You made a mistake going after this weakling. Even his friends and teachers had to step in to save him. He's not worth this power. And his brother steps in very calmly and is like, no, you're wrong. Someone who doesn't love and someone who doesn't have to struggle for power wouldn't understand what this kid is going through. He does all this because he wants to help people. He's a true hero, and the only reason he's upset is because the people that he loves are getting hurt. So there's a difference between them, and I love that he kind of explained that to him, and he kind of shut All For One up, which is really cool. So as soon as he did that, you see Deku kind of rage out. They give Deku all the power they can. He jumps forward and hits Shigaraki, and that's when they come out of this realm. And Deku for a second is very nervous. He's like, did he steal the power? And he's like, no, he couldn't, because he couldn't gain full control. He doesn't have mastery of All For One yet. His body can't take the power away yet. So that's good to know. All For One Shigaraki cannot steal the power until he's fully mastered the All For One quirk. So Deku kind of got lucky. He was in a bad situation, but because they took him out early, there's nothing he could have done. So he kind of got lucky in that situation. Obviously, Deku is not strong enough to mess with Shigaraki yet, but Shigaraki looks so messed up at the end of this chapter. He looks like just a burnt corpse and everything. And All For One's like, all right, Shigaraki, we've done our job. Gather yourself. Don't pass out. You got to go fully master this power. Retreat for now. Gain your power. Come back even stronger, and let's mess these guys up. So it looks like this is where we're going to end this battle between Shigaraki and the heroes. Shigaraki obviously is taking a lot of damage. He's going to retreat, go fully master this power. Obviously, they've done a lot of damage here, so the heroes are going to take the brunt of this blame for not being prepared enough to kind of mess with or stop the villain. So this is going to definitely change the entire Japan world in My Hero Academia for what happened and how the heroes are looked at. So really interesting. So if this is where it ends, really cool. What an amazing arc, but what a fight. So that's kind of where this chapter ends. We kind of get a small scene of where chapter 288 picks up, is with Toga, Mr. Compress, Dabi all on top of Higantamaki, and they're racing towards these cities. And Toga really wants to talk to Ochoco and Deku about what happened to Twice and what they would do if they're in the same situation. Heroes are supposed to save people, and if the villains are people, would the heroes kill them as well? Are the villains considered people or not? Toga wants this question answered, and that kind of leaves us into chapter 288. And chapter 288 kind of picks up there. We get a small scene of someone in a plane, and we're not sure who it is, but he's really wants to get to the city where everything is going down here. We don't see who it is. We just see a silhouette. It might be All Might. So if he's jumping in, we might even get a hero from the USA or something like that. It's a really weird sound that came out of the corner of the house. I don't know what that was. That freaked me out a little bit. But I almost lost my train of thought. So someone's in the plane. We don't get to see who it is, but we get that small scene. So hopefully in the next chapter, we get to see who that was in the plane and if they're really there to help out. But chapter 288 is called Save Takeo, and we'll talk about that a little later. But We're probably gonna pick up here in chapter 288 with the heroes rushing towards Higantamaki. He's doing so much damage. They talk about how his mole claws, he's got those giant claws and he's just ripping through the town like it's grass or like it's plastic. I mean, he's just absolutely destroying it. And the heroes are even talking about this is unprecedented damage and this is the heroes' failure, and they don't want the citizens to be caught up in their failure. They don't want the civilians to leave the same fate. The heroes are willing to die, but they don't want the civilians to have their same fate. So obviously I like that the heroes are taking the blame for this. Yes, they did not prepare. They kind of got caught in their ways. They did not use their strength. They did not think of this through. And obviously this is unprecedented damage to the cities. A lot of casualties, I'm sure, are coming from this as well. So the heroes are doing their best to evacuate everyone in his path. And Higantamaki, I just don't understand who's going to stop him. He's so broken. He's so big. He didn't even go down with the canisters of like knockout fluid. So I don't know, whoever's in the plane is probably going to come and stop him. That's my goal. Hopefully someone like that, if it's All Might using one last time of like his super all USA smash and smashes him into the sky or something like that. I don't know who's going to be able to stop him. He's so brokenly strong and huge and unstoppable. He's got to get to his master. So we'll see how they stop Higantamaki. But for now, they're just trying to clear things out. And we pick up where we left off at the end of chapter 287 with Toga talking to Mr. Compress, the long-haired guy, Dabi, and everyone. And they're kind of just hanging out on top of Higantamaki. And Toga's actively looking for Tsuyu, Ochoco, and Deku. And finally, they have a satellite camera. And the long-haired guy, who's part of the Federation, whatever it is, he notices that on the satellite, he sees Ochoco and Tsuyu. And Mr. Compress is like, hey, go back. Who is that? And then they just notice him, and Toga gets really excited. She's been looking at him. She wants her questions answered. So she asked Mr. Compress for her gear, and it was a really funny scene. He's like, oh my goodness. She's like, Mr. Compress, give me my stuff. And he's like, oh my goodness, you're gonna make an old man blush. And he pops out her gear. She puts all her stuff on, that blood tank and her needle and all this stuff. And she jumps off Higantamaki and races over to get to Ochoco and Tsuyu. Well, while this is happening, Ochoco and Tsuyu are trying to save as many people as they can. They're about 8 minutes away from Higantamaki. They can see him in the background ripping through the city. So they're trying to evacuate people as best they can here. Tsuyu's using her tongue ability to save people from windows here. Ochoco is using her uva gravity to make people, not her uva gravity, that's her name, her gravity power to make people float in the air to get out of trouble's way and to help Tsuyu kind of grab them and lead them away in an easier fashion. So she's not carrying just dead weight all around, even though she probably could. She's pretty strong. But as they're doing this, an old lady pops out of nowhere. She's like, please, please save my husband. He's bedridden and can't move. Ochoco sees this. She tells Tsuyu to take the rest of the survivors away, and she runs after this old lady. And a funny scene, the old lady's like, follow me, and then just starts dipping, just haul-assing to the heart. And Ochoco's like, man, lady, you can move. And she's like, it's Takeo. I hope I'm saying that right. Takeo's love. That makes my legs move so much. And she's like, oh, okay. And Ochoco, obviously, she has a love interest in Deku. So she's like, oh, maybe this is like the super love thing. So that was a really funny scene. But as soon as she turns the corner, she's like, don't worry, we'll save your husband. And all of a sudden you see Toga's mask of the old lady just rip off, and she's in nothing. She's in her birthday suit. She's like, you will? Really interesting. And Ochoco's face like, what are you doing? So that was a really good scene. Yes. Hi, puppy's getting really needy, wants to be in my lap. Hi. Hello. I know. Thank you for the love. And then she notices it's Toga, and Toga's like, I need to talk to you, and kind of like slips into the door. Ochoco is right behind her. Obviously, Ochoco knows how to fight, and she can defend herself. They've had their tussles before, especially in the forest all that time ago. But in the scene, Toga's questioning her, and it's like, I really wanted to talk to you, Ochoco, and Tsuyu, and Deku. And she kind of starts naming things and why she likes him. She's like, Tsuyu's my cute, adorable friend. I love when Deku's beat up and hurt. I just love that about him. That's him all the time, because Deku's always beat up or has a cast or something on. And she's like, Ochoco, I love you too. You're so cute. And all of a sudden, she pops out of nowhere, needle in hand or knife in hand, and chose to stab Ochoco. Ochoco, with great reaction time, grabs her arm, gets her out of the way, and is holding her at kind of like arm's length. And Toga asks, or Ochoco's like, or Toga's like, I wanted to talk to you. And Ochoco's like, you killed that girl, the old lady, stole her blood just to talk to me. And Toga kind of looks confused, like, just to? What are you talking about? It's like, what would you do if you're a hero, I'm a villain? What would you do to me if like certain circumstances happen. And Ochoco kind of gives her a very honest answer. Is like, I'm a hero. If you try to get in my way from saving people, I will do everything in my power to stop you. And I'm not sure if this is what Toga wanted to hear. Toga's like, I think Toga wanted to hear like, despite you being a villain, I will try to save you even if you were in trouble as well. So I think that's what Toga wanted to hear, that the heroes see them as human beings as well, not just monsters or evildoers or devils or whatever it is that people kind of see villains as, but that they are people with their own circumstances. And I think that's what Toga wants to hear from Ochoco. And if Ochoco doesn't give her the response she wants, this could turn really ugly and turn into a fight. But I can't tell. I really can't tell based on Toga's face at the end. She looks upset. She looks like she's very sad by what Ochoco said, or it's exactly what she thought Ochoco said and she's not too surprised by it. So we'll see. That's where the chapter ends, with Toga and Ochoco in this like kind of death situation here, to see what Ochoco's response is to Toga and how Toga reacts to that response. So I'm excited to see. I love the interaction between Toga and Ochoco. I think they're really interesting here. Their conversations are good. They're kind of on opposite halves of what they could be. Ochoco comes from a very poor family, so she could very much have ended up on the other side here. She's in the hero business for money. Obviously, she's a good person. She wants to save people and help people, but she also have ulterior motives. She wants to have money to kind of give her parents a better life. So things happen on both sides here. Everyone has their own circumstances, and everyone's a human being in some way. So, goodness. So that's where the chapter ends. It was a really good back-to-back chapter setting. I like that we kind of got a break from the inner world of Deku and Shigaraki, and kind of got this breath of fresh air with Ochoco and Toga in their conversation. So maybe we'll go back to Deku and them in the next chapter, guys. But comment below, what was your favorite part of chapter 287 and 288? Who do you think the person was in the plane that's headed towards Higantamachia and the rest of the heroes? Is it All Might? Is it a new hero we haven't seen yet here, or is it someone that we know? So comment below, guys, with your thoughts on that here. I'll be back again next week with another review of chapter 289 of My Hero Academia. I can't remember if there's a break or not. Let me check really quick here if there's a break this week. November 1st. So there is a break this week. So maybe I'll come up with a My Hero Academia discussion video or something this weekend. So look out for those guys here. But that's it for me for this discussion video, guys. I'll be back again soon. Peace. Have a fantastic day.